everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to do a quarterly catch-up. I was originally going to do them like once a month, but I didn't do that. And also I didn't really feel like I was reading enough books to warrant doing a monthly catch-up, which is really embarrassing considering I love books and I have a TBR of over 1,000. Anywho, yes, this is basically just all of the books that I have read January, February, March and April. Yeah, so let's just dive into some book reviews and hopefully you'll find some that you want to read. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, so I've got my list, my little Goodreads up, and my very first book that I read of the year was a reread of Harry Potter. I love the audiobooks with Stephen Fry. I absolutely love those books. I'm sorry, I literally just painted my nails, so I'm like, so it was The Prisoner of Azkaban, which is one of the best books, I think, in my opinion, although I do think Goblet of Fire is my favourite personally. I listened to that. I'm just going to skip through as well, because I also listened to Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, and Deathly Hallows. So I finished the Harry Potter series off over the past 4 months. Really enjoyed it. It's, I think, my third time now listening to the audiobooks. I read them physically once and then I've listened to the audiobooks 3 times because I just love the audiobooks so much. That's just something I read. My second book of the year was Stalked by the Kraken. It's exactly what it sounds like and I had a very good time reading it. It was very fun. It was entertaining. It's a spicy romance with a kraken. Yep. The third book that I read was The Watchers. I really enjoyed this. I think I gave it 4 stars in total. I really enjoyed this book, and I've just found out as well that they're making it into a movie, which is even more exciting. I think the movie is called The Watched instead of The Watchers. But yeah, it was a really fantastic book. It was about a woman who gets lost in a forest. Her car breaks down in a forest and she's walking through the woods and it's getting dark, and yeah, she finds this bunker with some other people in, and there's a person at the door yelling at her to run, you know, the night's coming, you need to run to the bunker. So she starts running and she starts hearing things behind her. And anyway, yeah, she gets to this bunker, and basically it's a large bunker with a big window that's one-sided, so the people inside the bunker can't see out, but the things outside the bunker can see in, and every night the people that are stuck in this bunker are watched by something, and it's very eerie, very creepy. I really enjoyed it and I cannot wait to watch the movie. It was a really good book. And I really enjoyed A.M. Shine's writing, and also I have another book by him, The Creeper. I have The Creeper by him, which I really want to read as well. So yeah, that's the first 3 books I read. I have a physical copy of this. I then read episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. This was a kind of found footage, paranormal investigation type book. It was very similar to House of Leaves, which if you've seen a few of my videos, you know that I kind of had a love-hate relationship with that book because I loved the premise but I hated the execution, basically. I just really did not vibe with the writing style. I found that I do struggle a little bit with mixed media, whereas this was also mixed media, but it was a bit more accessible for my dumb little brain. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It went crazy at the end, as these kind of books always do. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think I gave this 4 stars as well. Yeah, it's a very good mixed media paranormal research book about, it was about episode 13. A show of paranormal investigators aired 12 episodes, but they never aired the 13th because something happened. But really excellent, really enjoyed it. I really liked the characters as well. The main duo was a married couple. One was a scientist that kind of was always trying to prove that paranormal entities and things that didn't exist, and then her husband was all saying that they do exist, and yeah, it was just like back and forth, but it was a really excellent book and I really did enjoy it. Next, I read Cursed. This was a collection, it was an anthology of horror short stories. I enjoyed this for the most part. I think I gave it 3 out of 5. I enjoyed some of the books, I didn't enjoy some of the others, so it kind of rounded out to about 3 stars. But I do always love a good anthology of horror short stories, because I think horror lends itself really well to short stories, just because you don't need a lot of words to kind of unnerve someone and set a scene. So horror always lends itself well to anthologies, I think. So yeah, I read Curse. I also did a reread of The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. This was on audiobook as well. I recently purchased all of the audiobooks because I wanted to do a reread, but I wanted to do it via audiobook instead this time. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 again, as I did last time. A lot of people say that they recommend reading Assassin's Blade third after Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, but I would say don't do that personally. I'm really happy that I read it first, the first time round that I read the books, just because I feel like it gave you a really good background to the main character. There's an event that happens in that book that is referenced very heavily in Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, and I feel like it's more impactful when you're reading the Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight books because you've experienced the event that they're talking about, so it's more emotionally impactful, I think. I found anyway. But again, you do you, read it how you want to, but I'm very glad that I did read The Assassin's Blade first before the other two. That was a lot of talking. Okay, next I read Parasite by Darcy Coates. This was one of the last books that I needed to read from Darcy Coates, and I've been putting it off purely because I'm not a big sci-fi girly. I never have been, probably never will be. I enjoy it on occasion, but I am mainly like horror, fantasy, and a little bit of romance. But that being said, I love Darcy Coates, so I had to give it a try, and this unfortunately was one of my least favourite Darcy Coates books. I gave it 3 out of 5, and it wasn't because it was a sci-fi setting that was done very well, and Darcy Coates always has this knack of creating characters that I just absolutely adore. But my one issue with this book was it was set from like 3 different stories, like back to back in this world, and I kept thinking that they were gonna intertwine at the end and that we'd get this big final, like, I don't know, just a big final story where everyone comes together, and we never had that, and I kind of feel like all these individual stories never really got a full ending, and I was kind of like, I want to know what happens, like I want the happily ever after, and they never got that, apart from like the last story had a good like ending and wrap up, but the other 2 before that didn't, and I was kind of like, I was left wanting, especially one of the stories that had like a couple in it that I absolutely loved, and I really wanted, like, you knew kind of what happened, but it was kind of left on a cliffhanger and you never really found out what happened to them, so that was my one gripe. But other than that, really fantastic premise, really fantastic setting. The writing is always really good with Darcy Coates books, it's just they always hit. But yeah, that one was a little bit disappointing for me, which is, I don't think I've ever given a Darcy Coates book less than a 4, so that was a big thing for me. Number 1 fangirl over here. I then read The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. This is the second in the Poppy War series, and these books are crazy. They're so good. Ugh, they're just so intense as well. It's very epic, high fantasy, very gruesome at times. R.F. Kuang's writing is just so impeccable. She's so incredible at creating like these big, huge moments where all the characters come together, and it's really like epic. And you know, like when you're watching like Lord of the Rings or something, there's a big fight scene, like that is literally what it feels like when you're reading these books. It's so tense and gripping, and you literally cannot put it down until like that scene is over. I'm kind of putting off reading the last one. I read this, I think, in January or February. Yeah, I read this at the end of January, and I have still yet to pick up the last one. And I know I really need to, because they're just incredible books. But yeah, I've been put off it just because I'm so nervous about reading it. And also there was kind of a not cliffhanger as such, but like a big thing happened in the second half of this book that I kind of like, I really didn't want to, I was really upset that it happened, so I just need to find the nerve to pick up the last book, I think. But yeah, 5 out of 5, and Poppy was 5 out of 5 as well. I would 100% recommend this series. Very epic, very gruesome, depicting like really heavy battle scenes in gruesome detail, but just incredible. Incredible. I would 100% recommend the Poppy War series. I then read My Brutal Beast by Melissa Cummins. This was another kind of, I like after I've read a couple of really heavy like horrors or big epic fantasies, I really like just a like fantasy romance to refresh, a bit of a palate cleanser, so to speak. And I found My Brutal Beast. It was not great. I think I gave it 2 out of 5. There's definitely better fantasy romances out there. I didn't really enjoy it very much. Sorry. Moving on. I then read my second Darcy Coates book of the year. I read Where He Can't Find You, and I tabbed it as well because I knew I was going to love this, and I did. It was a 5 out of 5. It was absolutely fantastic. I think it was one of her best ones yet, actually. I feel like I say that about every new book she brings out. It was about the Stitcher, and basically it's a monster, a creature, they don't know, that kills people in this town. It was really gruesome. Like, cut them up and then sew them together with red thread, which is, you can see the red thread here. So the police will just find like bodies sewn together, and it'll be like a collection of 3 or 4 different people. Very gruesome, and it's about a story of a group of 5 friends. Was it? 6 friends. The main character's sister, Hope, gets taken by the Stitcher, and it's basically the main character's Abby's kind of mission to get her back. But it was fantastic. Again, Darcy Coates creates characters that I absolutely love, and the friend group dynamic was excellent. I just loved every single character. I felt very deeply for them. So yeah, an absolutely incredible book. 5 out of 5. Darcy Coates, I love you. Please never stop writing, because I will read everything that you write. But absolutely fantastic. Would recommend. The next book that I read was the third Darcy Coates book. Bit of a theme going on here, isn't there? And that was The Hollow Dead. This was is it the 4th? Yes, it is the 4th in the Gravekeeper series, which is about a woman called Kira who wakes up in the middle of a forest one day with no memories, and she's being chased by some people, and she runs into a graveyard to hide and realises that she can see and talk to ghosts, and she gets this really close knit of friends. There's 3 of them in total, a nice little trio, and they just go out basically helping their local community fight ghosts. But it's really good fun, really enjoyable series. I've given all the books a solid 4 out of 5. I would say the main trio is what really is what I enjoy most about this series. Yeah, and I really enjoy it. They're just kind of like fun horror stories, if that makes sense. They're not really spooky as much as it's like almost like a palate cleanser horror book, but I really enjoy them. They're really good fun, and I would 100% recommend this series if you don't want anything too gritty and gruesome. Just very nice, like supernatural horror and good fun. So yeah, that was my third Darcy Coates book of the year. I then read The Night House by Jo Nesbo. I've heard incredible things about this horror book, and it did not disappoint. I think I gave this 4 out of 5 as well. I did find it a little bit confusing, just because if you have read it, you'll know that it's kind of like set over 3 different stories that interweave, and you kind of don't know which is the real story and what's actually happening, and that was a little bit confusing. This was very gruesome, very graphic, but it was a good horror. I can't even explain what it was about because it's like 3 different stories, and I feel like if I talk about one, I'll spoil the other. Yeah, so I would recommend just kind of maybe looking into that yourself. Maybe I'll read the synopsis, then I won't spoil anything because it's just there. So it says, in the wake of his parents' tragic deaths, 14-year-old Richard Eleved has been sent to live with his aunt and uncle in the remote town of Ballantine. Richard quickly earns a reputation as an outcast, and when a classmate named Tom goes missing, no one believes him when he says the telephone booth out by the edge of the woods sucked Tom into the receiver like something out of a horror movie. No one, that is, except the enigmatic Karen, who encourages Richard to pursue clues the police refuse to investigate. He traces the murder to an abandoned house in the woods. There he catches a glimpse of a terrifying face in the window, and then the voices start. When another classmate disappears, Richard grapples with the dark magic that's possessing Valentine to try and find them before it's too late. And I gave it 4 out of 5. I did enjoy it. Yeah, but a little bit confusing at times. It's like a book you have to pay attention to, you know? I then read While the Storm Rages by Phil Earle. I was kind of hoping that it would be similar vibes to Goodnight Mr. Tom by Michelle McGorrin, which is my favourite book of all time. It still is. It just holds a very near and dear place in my heart. It just didn't quite do what I wanted it to do. There are a couple of scenes that I just felt were completely unnecessary and did not fit within the vibe of the book at all, and it really kind of threw me for a loop because it's a young adult story about a young boy called Noah who has a dog. And basically, I didn't know this, but during World War II, just before it started, they recommend that everyone put their pets down, which is just awful. And basically, it's Noah's story of trying to save his dog and prevent it from being put down. And then like a ragtag group of kids go on a mission with all their pets to try and find a place, like a sanctuary for the animals to stay, so that their parents didn't force them to have them put to sleep. But yeah, I just felt like there were a couple of scenes that I was just like, why on earth would you write that in? Especially with a young adult story. It's almost children's fiction, to be fair. And I just, 3 out of 5, it is what it is. I then read The Night Hunt by Alexander Christo. This was good fun. This was a book about a monster, and the main character was the antagonist, basically. It's unusual. It's not often you get a main character that's kind of the bad guy. But she's not the bad guy, but she's a monster who feeds off the misery of others. So she's called Atia, and she's the last of her kind, and she feeds off nightmares, basically. It definitely has found family vibes to it, which I always love a good found family book. They were on a quest to save Atia, basically, because the gods are sending monsters to kill her, so she has to go on an adventure, basically, to try and destroy the gods to prevent them from killing her. So yeah, it was really good fun. I think I gave this a 5, actually. Let me just double check. I'm pretty sure it was like a 4.5 or a 5. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Again, I love found family, and I love stories of when people are on a quest somewhere. So it was just, and there's a nice little romance in there as well. It just hit all of the boxes. I really enjoyed it. This is the second book that I've read by Alexander Christo now. I also read To Kill a Kingdom, and I gave that 5 out of 5 as well. So I'm going to be interested to read other Alexandra Christo's books in the future. I do have Princess of Souls as well that I need to read down in my library. So yeah, that was really good. I then kind of wanted a bit of a change in genre, so I picked up Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I think this is the 5th or 6th Ali Hazelwood book that I've read now. This was probably my least favourite, but it was still a 4 out of 5, so I still really enjoyed it. A lot of people say if you've read one Ali Hazelwood book, you've read them all, and I would agree with that, but I still really enjoy myself every single time, and that it is just what it is. This is, I think, Ali's only young adult novel, so it's not as spicy as the others. Yeah, it was still a really sweet romance. It was about a young girl called Mallory Greenleaf, who basically goes into the chess championship to go against this guy called Nolan, who is the current world champion and reigning bad boy of chess. And basically just sparks fly over time, but they're competing. You know, it's very tense. Emotions are high. It was good. I enjoyed it. It was a nice romance, and I really liked Nolan's character. And to be fair, I really liked Mallory's as well. She was a little bit of a martyr and kind of like put everything on herself, which frustrates me sometimes, but overall, yeah, 4 out of 5 romance. I really enjoy Ali Hazelwood's writing. I really enjoy her books. They're just good fun. They're just nice, good fun romance. And it's always nice to see women represented in the academics. Yeah, really good fun. I then binged a series, so I read 4 books back to back. I really enjoyed it. So I read Signs of Cupidity, Bonds of Cupidity, Crimes of Cupidity, and For the Love of Cupidity. And this was just like a really silly, fun fantasy romance about a Cupid who crash lands on an island surrounded by 3 big, burly, good-looking men. And it's basically just her trying to come to terms with, like, having a real physical form because she's been a Cupid. She's kind of been spiritual, it's, like, not real. And it's her time to find love. And she just so happens to crash land on an island with literally just 3 big, good-looking men on. But it's just a really good, fun romance. There's loads of, like, world building as well. There's a lot of politics thrown in the background. It is very spicy. I enjoyed it. I had a very good time reading it. There was another book which was a spin-off of the other characters, of a couple of other characters within the world, but I just wasn't super interested in reading that. But yeah, there's the trilogy, the main trilogy, and then For the Love of Cupidity is a novella. But I did really enjoy it. I mean, I read 4 books back to back, and I'm pretty sure I read them within like a week or 2, so I really binged this series. I had a good time. And then I read, and this is very exciting, I think I've spoken about it once before, possibly. I should talk about it more. I read my brother's book, specifically the second in his trilogy, his sci-fi trilogy. So the first one was called Insurgents Harmony, and it's the Collision series. And the second book is called Ciphers Wrath, a space opera. And I read the second book in, I think, March. I listened to an audiobook. I would definitely recommend the audiobooks. They're amazing. Yeah, and I'm so incredibly proud of my brother for writing these books, and they're actually so freaking good. Like, I wish I had the imagination of my brother, honestly. Like, I read books because I don't have imagination, whereas he just writes books because he does. Yeah, it's, oh gosh, where do I even begin? It's literally like Game of Thrones in space. Like, there's so much world building and politics. So the human remnant are off on a voyage to find a planet suitable to live on because the humans have just destroyed the planet Earth, which isn't surprising to anyone, and it's probably going to actually happen in real life. And on their voyage, they crash into, well, a spaceship type creature. Living spaceship crashes into them, stalling their movement to pasture is what they've called it. And on this devourer is what it's called, is a alien race, and it's basically just the politics of this alien race living in tandem with the human race. It's a lot of, I wouldn't say it's not racism, it's speciesism. But it definitely delves into real world, like today, real world politics with racism and classism. It's a fantastic book with a lot of really deep meaning behind it. The characters are incredible. If you've watched Firefly, it's kind of got those kind of vibes. I know my brother absolutely loved Firefly, so I imagine he got inspiration from that. But there's just such an incredible cast of characters that I've absolutely fallen in love with, and I would 100% recommend the audiobooks because they're just fantastic. Yeah, and it goes crazy, like how he's managed to write. Honestly, I'm speechless. Yeah, I would 100% recommend these books, guys, and that's not just me being like, oh, of course he's your brother. Like, genuinely, they're so good. Yeah, definitely listen to the audiobooks. I would 100%. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I've given both of them 5 out of 5s, and yes, I'm a little bit biased because it's my freaking brother, but I would genuinely rate them 5 out of 5 anyway, even if he wasn't my brother. So, I'm just saying. Yeah, so I read The Collision Ciphers Wrath by T.M. Clayton, my lovely brother, and it's fantastic, and I would 100% recommend it, and he is currently writing the 3rd book. I don't know when that's going to be out, but I want it, and I'm excited for it. Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, read it, guys, honestly. Moving on from that, I then... complete opposite spectrum. I read Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. This is a second in the series of Secretly Yours? Pretty sure that's what it's called. And I got that as an ARC last year sometime. The year before, I can't remember. And I read it, really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 out of 5. And this was a spin-off of the main character's sister. From the last one, it's her sister. It is fake marriage, which I don't think I've actually ever read a fake marriage. I've read fake dating, but I've never read fake marriage, I don't think. And these two are absolute rivals. They hate each other, but they can't seem to stay away from one another. Tensions are really high. The banter is fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 as well. Let me just double check. Yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed Tessa Bailey's writing as well, similar to Ali Hazelwood. It's just really fun, enjoyable romances with really good banter, really good witty banter, and yeah, really nice romances with a little bit of spice thrown in there. So yeah, I enjoyed both of them in the series. I gave them both 4 out of 5. I enjoyed them both. What did I read next? Oh, then I went through a little bit of a novella time. I went through a little bit of a period of just reading novellas, horror novellas. I read The Lover by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, who was the author of Mexican Gothic. She was the author of Mexican Gothic, which I read 2 years ago now, I think, and I gave it 4 out of 5. Really enjoyed it. Very creepy horror. Weird ending, went off on a tangent, again, as horrors tend to. I gave this a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this short story. It was about a young woman who lives near the woods. It was kind of set in, like, yay back in the day, where they lived in, like, huts and things by the woods, and it was about a woman finding a stranger out in the woods. Yeah, I won't go into too much detail, because it's only 43 pages, but I would 100% recommend this book. I really enjoyed it. I don't want to say too much because it's such a short book and I feel like anything I do say will be a spoiler, but I would definitely recommend it. It was a very good horror, but it also played with your emotions quite a lot as well. I then read The Tiger Came to the Mountains, again by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, and I did not like this one, and I gave it 3 out of 5. Which isn't too bad actually, considering I said I don't like it. It was part of the Trespass collection, which is a collection of short stories. I just kind of found that this one, the main storyline seemed a little bit pointless. I don't know, it just kind of, I was like, well, what was the point in anything that just happened in the end? It didn't kind of have a good conclusion, I didn't feel. I just wasn't the biggest fan, unfortunately. And then I also read Wildlife by Jeff Vandermeer. I liked this even less. This was a 2 out of 5. I remember the writing style was very confusing. I remember why I didn't like that now. Yeah, I found the writing to be so confusing that I kind of lost track of what I was reading half the time. And considering it was only 57 pages, I feel like I should not have been losing track of where I was up to. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy that one very much. I did read, however, The Backbone of the World by Stephen Graham Jones, and I gave this 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed that one. Very bizarre, about a woman who lives on a farm and some prairie dogs start digging up her yard, and it's basically her battle between her and the prairie dogs, but oh my god, it just goes crazy. It's so bizarre, so freaky. I literally, like, my jaw was on the floor reading near the end. It was just so utterly bizarre, so alien. I would definitely recommend The Backbone of the World, and it's a short story, so it's not like, you know, you're not going to have to put a lot of time into it, so I would definitely recommend that one. And then last I read Stag by Karen Russell, and I gave this 2 out of 5. Didn't enjoy that one either. Oh yeah, that was another one where I was like, what on earth was the point in that whole story? It was about a bachelor who was crashing a wedding, and there was a tortoise at the wedding, and he was just following the tortoise around the wedding. And it was just like monologue after monologue of this guy's inner thoughts, and I was just like, this is really not interesting to me, I'm sorry. I did not enjoy that one. Anyway, I read Underground by E.S. Thompson. This is the 6th in the Beloved Poison series. So there's Beloved Poison, testing me now. There's Beloved Poison, Dark Asylum, The Blood, Surgeon's Hall, the 5th one that I didn't enjoy, so can't remember what it was called, and then Underground. Other than Nightshade, I have loved every single one of these books. I've definitely spoken about this series on my channel before. It is about an apothecary called Jem Flockhart in Victorian London. It's kind of like a spin-off of Sherlock Holmes. Worked in an infirmary in Victorian London, and basically they go around. There's Jem Flockhart and Will Quatermain. It's kind of like a duo, kind of like Sherlock Holmes, and they go around solving murders using their apothecary skills. And it's really gruesome, really gritty. I feel like I have a visceral reaction to when I'm reading this, and that I can actually smell Victorian London. Like, the descriptions are so just awful. The scene setting is so descriptive in that I genuinely feel like I could smell like the sewage and the disgusting death, and it was awful, but so fantastic. This is just another of the series. I would 100% recommend these. They're very good. Apart from Nightshade, I didn't enjoy Nightshade as much. I definitely found the books set within like areas, buildings more enjoyable. So like Beloved Poison was set in the infirmary that Jem originally worked at. Dark Asylum was set at an asylum. The Blood was based on a boat that was moored up and used as an infirmary. And then Surgeon's Hall was based in the Surgeon's Hall. Nightshade and Underground are the only 2 books that kind of delved across the entirety of London, and Nightshade wasn't even in London for half the book. And I feel like I didn't enjoy those as much. I gave this 4 out of 5. The first 4 all got 5 out of 5s. Dark Asylum was definitely my favourite of the series. But yeah, they're really good kind of Sherlock Holmes spin-offs. Very historically accurate as well, because the author is a historian. So yeah, I would definitely recommend them. So I listened to The Spite House by Johnny Compton. This was an interesting read. Very interesting. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 in total. It's about a man called Eric Ross, and he's on the run with his 2 daughters. Comes upon an advert online for someone to basically stay in a haunted house and get paid a ridiculous amount of money to basically document anything that happens within this house. So because he's on the run, he's trying to earn enough money to settle down in a safe place with his daughters. So he takes the job, and things just unfurl. The house is just, anyone who goes in is just absolutely filled with dread. There was a lot of backstory as well that we delved into. It was an interesting read. It was a very interesting read. I can't remember why I gave it 3.5, because I do remember really enjoying it, but I think I found the writing a little bit distracting sometimes, and it seemed a bit slow in places. Kind of, I wanted more to happen, and it was quite slow going. I felt like I really had to put in a lot of time to get a lot out of it. But yeah, it was a good book, and I would recommend it. Very, very strange. Definitely delves into like a lot of history of the other characters, which I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. It obviously added more to the story, but it did slow down the pace of the plot a lot. So, and then the last but certainly not least, The Lighthouse Witches by C.J. Cook. I've also read by C.J. Cook The Nesting and The Ghostwoods. Oh, I've read 3 books. I thought it was only 1. I remember really enjoying The Ghostwoods. I think I gave The Ghostwoods 4 out of 5, and The Nesting I gave 3 out of 5, and The Lighthouse Witches I gave 5 out of 5. Absolutely fantastic. Whoa, where do I even begin? So it's about a woman and her 2 daughters who come to this Scottish island, very remote, and she is there on commission to paint a lighthouse. But it turns out that the lighthouse is connected to the witch trials back in like the 1600s. Children tend to go missing on this island, and no one really knows why. Mysterious and terrible events have happened on the island. It started with a witch hunt. Now, centuries later, islanders are vanishing without explanation. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Really mysterious book. Like, I really wanted to know what was was happening. Like 90% of the time I was like, I need more information, I need to know what's going on. Really enjoyed the characters. Oh no, it was 3 daughters, I just remembered. It was a mother and 3 daughters. Very bizarre ending. Did not expect the ending in the slightest, but I like that. Definitely the best of her books that I've read so far, but I did also really enjoy The Ghostwoods. I would recommend that as well. Yeah, so I think that's everything. Yes, because my last book in April was The Deathly Hallows by Harry Potter. And that's everything. I don't know how many books that was. 33 books it was. Yeah, so I definitely need to read more, which is what this video has made me realise. But I have had some fantastic reads. I've had some not so good reads too. But I've only had, I think, 2-star reads, and they were the short stories. So, you know, I didn't waste like a lot of my time on a book that I didn't really enjoy. So yeah, I did have a good time reading these books. I love Darcy Coates. Read Darcy Coates. Please read my brother's books because they're incredible, and I would 100% recommend them, especially if you're big into sci-fi, which for me, who doesn't like sci-fi, to really love them. That kind of says it all. Yeah, so I do hope that you have found some books that you kind of may be interested in reading. I definitely read some good books so far this year, but I definitely would like to try and read a bit more. I spent too bloody long scrolling on TikTok or playing video games, which is my own fault, but yeah, hopefully my next quarterly book wrap up I'll have a few more books to talk about, not just 33 books. But yeah, I did very much enjoy a lot of the books that I've read, and I hope that you found some good recommendations for the future. Yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will hopefully see all of you lovely people in the next one. Alright, bye guys.